All right, let me ask you something. Have you ever left a family gathering? You got in the car, and within 5 minutes, you and your spouse or your fiance are arguing. Or maybe it's not loud arguing, maybe it's just that quiet tension, that feeling of, why does this keep happening? Here's the truth. Extended family is one of the biggest stressors in marriage. And most of the time, no one's trying to cause damage, but they do. And if you don't address this one issue, your parents or your in-laws can slowly pull your marriage apart without even meaning to. And that's why today I want to help you fix that. Here's what we're going to walk through together in this video. First, why you're actually struggling with your in-laws, and it's probably not what you're thinking. And then second, one biblical marriage principle that protects your relationship. And then third, 3 practical things that you can start doing right away. So let me tell you about this couple I worked with. They were a sweet couple. They're newly married. They loved each other deeply. I mean, they weren't rebellious. They weren't trying to dishonor anyone. But they were exhausted. And as we started unpacking their story, something became really clear. They lived on her parents' property. He worked for her parents' company, and they were at her parents' house almost every day. And her parents already had their futures planned out for them. And there were expectations placed on this young husband that honestly he never asked for and really never wanted. Now hear me, the tension wasn't explosive. It was subtle, but it was constant. So after listening to everything, I said something that kind of caught him off guard. I said, it sounds like most of the issues you brought to me today could be solved if you did one thing. And so she looked at me and she said, what? Please tell me. And I said, move 2 hours away. And the room got really quiet. Now listen, I'm not saying moving away is always the answer. I've seen couples live 5 minutes from their parents and have a beautiful, healthy relationship. But in this case, geography was exposing something way deeper. She hadn't really left her parents' home. And then when they did finally move, something shifted. They started making decisions together. The pressure lifted and their unity strengthened. And guess what? Today, they're doing great. It wasn't about distance. It was about priority. And that takes us straight to Galatians 2:24. And it says this, that's why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. So let's just slow that down for a minute. It says to leave. That means something. In every family, there's 2 kinds of relationships. There's the parent-child, and then there's the husband and wife. The parent-child relationship is temporary. The husband-wife relationship is permanent while you're on this earth. Jesus reinforces this in Matthew 19:6, where he says, what God has joined together, let no one separate. Here's where we get confused. We treat the parent-child relationship as if it's still primary after marriage, and that quietly threatens this new union. Now, you've probably heard this at weddings, and people say this. They'll be real sweet, and they'll say, we're not losing a daughter, we're gaining a son. And that's sweet, and it sounds really loving, and it comes from a good place. But biblically, that's not actually what's happening. And parents, you aren't helping your kids by saying things like that either. Marriage isn't adding someone to your parents' family. It's forming a brand new one. You're not expanding the old house. You're building a new one. And then it says this. First it says to leave, and then it says to cleave. What does that mean? That word means to pursue hard after, like to be glued to. There should be no closer human relationship than that of your spouse. Not your parents, not your friends, not your siblings, not anyone. If your parents still know more about your frustrations than your spouse does, something's out of order. And then it goes on to say, and they become one flesh. The 2 become one. You know what that is? It's emotional oneness. It's financial oneness. It's spiritual oneness. When that oneness is split, when you're still operating independently or dependent on mom and dad, it strains the marriage. I know, I've seen it a lot. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but aren't we supposed to honor our parents? Yes, you are. Absolutely. Scripture tells us to care for them, to respect them, to value them. But here's the shift. You can honor your parents without obeying them once you're an adult. When you get married, your primary loyalty shifts. You leave and you cleave. That becomes the greater commandment. Honor continues, but obedience changes. Once you're married, once you're an adult, you're not called to obey your parents. You're called to honor them. What do you do with this? I want to give you 3 things. First, you need to make a hard decision to leave. Not physically necessarily, unless it is necessarily, but leave emotionally, leave financially, leave spiritually. What I'm saying is grow up. It doesn't mean you stop loving your parents. It means you stop leaning on them like you're still a child. And parents, if you're watching this, let your kids grow up. Let your kids fail. Trust that you raised them well. Secondly, actively cleave to your spouse. Lock arms. Make decisions together. Present a united front. The strongest young marriages I see, it's the ones who had to figure it out together. Sometimes geography helps, but unity is the goal. All right, and then third, set healthy boundaries with family. I'm going to say avoid financial loans from parents if you can. Gifts are fine, loans are not. Be intentional about visits, right? Don't just do pop-ins. And here's a big one. When it comes to conflict, you deal with your parents and your spouse deals with theirs. That alone will prevent so much conflict within your marriage relationship. You'll know it's healthy when you can relate to your parents as friends and mentors and not as mommy and daddy. Start there and begin building a healthier marriage and a healthier extended family the way God designed it.